may as well get into what we've been
I was
watching
going to say,
since we're
what
about
have
halfway
you been
there.
watching? Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, I'll start with Netflix then. Remember how I told you about the train wreck, the drama, the one about the mayor? Well, what I wasn't aware of is it's actually a series where they're doing these documentaries on various subjects, and they're all 40, 45 minutes. The newest one, which is just out, I don't know if you remember this, about the boy in the balloon. There was this guy who made a balloon in his back garden with a sort of like, a basket in it, and they thought a kid was inside it. Well, they've made a documentary about that. That's just out this week. But the one I watched was called The Poop Cruise, which was, I know. Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's this big cruise liner where the engine room went on fire about 2 days into the cruise, and it was in the Gulf of Mexico. And that basically all the electrics went out at 6 o'clock in the morning, and everybody had to get out of bed and go up onto the deck and all that. And they said, "Don't worry, we'll get it sorted. It'll get sorted out in a couple of hours. Everything will be fine." But they couldn't get into the engine room until it cooled down from the fire. They put the fire out pretty quickly, but when they get in there, they saw that the fire had burned through all the electrical cabling, which meant there was no power to the ship at all. So you think that's bad enough because you don't have air conditioning or anything. You don't have aircon. You don't have lights. You don't have heating wasn't a problem in this case, but obviously there's no facilities for cooking or anything like that, refrigeration. But the worst of it was because they're all in cabins, all of the sanitary units in the cabins ran on electricity because it relied on pumps to pump water through the system. It wouldn't work, so therefore toilets stopped working, and they had to come up with the system of what are we going to do. So it was like, you can go and pee in the shower, that's fine. If you wanted to do a number two, they all called it a number two. They were giving out these red bags, these hazardous waste bags to everybody, and you were having to
get in a bag.
Do the big job in a bag.
Oh my god, that's horrendous.
So it's all these people, it's they're interviewing people who were on the cruise, some of the people who were actually working on the cruise, which was a fucking nightmare for them.
Oh, I imagine,
Also the people who were there, those women who were on a bachelorette party, and they just wanted to, have a good time and all that. And halfway through this, they decided, well, we're going to have to. People were getting really restless, and because it was going on for days and days, and because we were in the middle, they were having to get a tow coming from, I think it was Mexico. They were going to tow them back to. So it was going to take a day or so for this tow to actually come out and get them. So they opened the bar and just made it a free bar for everybody. And the people were there saying, "Free bar, this is brilliant, it's really good." The three women they were talking to, they were going, "Yeah, brilliant." And it just turned into a complete nightmare because people were getting absolutely pissed. They were having sex on deck. They were fighting, all sorts of stuff. It was just crazy, absolutely
and of course,
crazy.
Surely that much drinking's going to make you spew, and where do you spew?
Exactly, yeah. So eventually they got a tow, and they were started to get taken back to port. And at this point, they were having to go back to the US because the boat had drifted, and it was drifting northward, so it wasn't going to get to him. So they had to take it back to the US. And of course, as soon as they started towing it, the weather changed and it became rougher. And this was basically an unsteerable boat. So it was rocking. And when things rock, things move, as in all the piss that's in the shower.
Oh, no.
It started flooding some of the decks with this stuff. It was just, it was
my
horrendous.
God, that's awful. And honestly, I get wanting to placate people and being like, we'll give you a few drinks, but a free bar, that was only ever going to end in disaster. Never mind the fact that you can't go to the toilet.
That was a crazy one. You're kind of going, no, you don't do that. You can't. But it's a good watch. And again, it's done in the same way as the other train wreck one. Yeah. It's very short. It's 45 minutes. They're cramming all this into 45 minutes. So it was an interesting watch, to say the least. So that was a good thing. I went back and started watching a couple of things. Actually, I didn't realise how long it had been. It was actually pre-pandemic. I was watching a couple of things that I never went back to. I went back and watched The Good Place, which is Kristen Bell led drama with like Ted Danson and various other people in it. And I'd watched about 2.5 seasons of that. It's on Netflix, and I went back and started watching that again, and it's really good. It's so funny, and it's very sort of arch. It's very clever in the way that they do it. I don't know. I've got no idea. I think I just probably watched too much of it at the time. So I wasn't watching it on a week-to-week basis when it came out, so I kind of binged it, and I got a bit fed up with it, I think, more than anything else. So, but yes, I was pleased with that. And then I also started watching the Santa Clarita Diet. Don't know if you've seen it on Netflix.
That looks good.
Yeah. It's Timothy Olyphant and Drew Barrymore. And Drew Barrymore's basically, she ate something and became undead, and it's all about how they manage her craving and everything. And it's really, really good. Timothy Olyphant is fantastic, and he's the husband who's trying to keep everything together. And they're just so good playing off of each other. I don't know if you saw this last week or so. It was a wee video. It was Josh Duhamel, the actor, who he was being interviewed about something, and he said that he gets mistaken for Timothy Olyphant all the time.
I can see that though, yeah.
Yep, and it was everything, the people were saying, I loved you in Deadwood and things like that, and he was like, it wasn't me. I wasn't in that program. But eventually, at one point, he actually met Timothy Olyphant and his family. They were at some big do or something, and they were laughing and joking about it. And Timothy Olyphant says, look, what I want you to do is get a picture taken with my family. So he got Josh Duhamel in the middle with Timothy Olyphant's family, took a picture, and Josh Duhamel didn't think anything of it. But then Timothy Olyphant used that picture for the family Christmas card and sent that out to everybody. And people didn't notice it wasn't him. Even his mother, Timothy Olyphant's mother, didn't know. It was only pointed out by, I think it was like Timothy Olyphant's brother. He says, you realise that's Josh Duhamel in that picture? And she looked at it and she said, I was wondering why you look taller.
That is so good. That
was so brilliant. Good. Yeah, it was excellent. I was really kind of chucklesome as well, the way they obviously engineered all that as well. So I've started watching Curb Your Enthusiasm again as well. Another one that I think it was on Channel 4 and we were watching it then, and then it just switched to Sky. It's all on Sky Comedy, so started watching that again and watched a couple episodes of that last night, which was really funny. Really, he's just a horrible, horrible guy. In the episode that I saw, he gets a sandwich named after him, but he doesn't like what the ingredients of the sandwich, so he tries to swap it with somebody else, and it's the whole thing about that. So yeah, that was excellent. My obsession with the Tour de France continues for another week because we're just about to go into the final week of it, and it's really good. I've really kind of get totally engaged with it. And I've also found there's a program on Netflix which has been going for a couple of years called Tour de France Unchained. It's the same idea, I think, as Drive to Survive, the Formula One one. So it's behind the scenes actually at a Tour de France, and it's 2022 was the first one that they did it, and they basically get access to all the principal teams, all the team leaders. They got footage from the actual races as well, and they were speaking. It was full cooperation of Tour de France, and it's really good because it's done in such a way. I would imagine, I haven't seen the Formula One, but it's like a docudrama. There's drama every episode, especially because these sort of high level sports where there's drama going on all the time, both in front, actually on the racetrack and behind. So there was a lot of stuff going on there, and the way that they delved into what the tactics of the teams were and how sometimes it paid off and sometimes it didn't, because people would crash out and all sorts of stuff. It kind of informs your watching of the present one because you can see why certain teams do certain things as well. It stays away from the whole sort of drug side of it. I think they've kind of been told, there was slight mentions of it. Yeah, there's one team principal who was a teammate of Greg LeMond, who was a bit of a major druggie, and he had admitted to it at the time. He'd obviously more penitent now, and he's started up his own team and everything, and with the sort of the ethos behind it to make it clean, keep it clean and all that. Whether that actually happens, you don't know. You just kind of have to assume that they're all on drugs, and some of them are on better drugs than others, so that kind of enhances where they get to. But yeah, that's kind of all part of it. But yeah, the two things in combination have been really, really good. And the Tour de France Unchained is just a wee 45-minute program again, so you just hoover those up. I've watched maybe about 6 of those. There's 8 in a series. There's 8 in a series, and that covers it quite nicely because there is like 21 days of competition, so that's quite nicely segmented up. And they had access to all the training camps and everything as well, so you get like profiles of drivers, of cyclists and various teams that are involved in it, so you get to speak to all them as well, and how they all, what their goals are. And it's very difficult for some of them have been brought in and they're stars in their own right, but they're there to serve somebody else who's like up for the sort of general classification. Whereas they could quite easily win events themselves if they but they are there in service to the sort of team leader. What I didn't realise was when they're actually on the road, the team surrounds their main rider because it keeps a sort of wind off them. And it means their performance, they're saving up to 40% of their energy by not having to constantly fight against this wind. They've almost got this shield around them. So that's what they try and do. They try and keep their main rider sort of safe and preserving his energy towards the end of the race and all that. So there's all these wee things that you kind of talk about and go into, and you're thinking, it's all tactics, it's obviously big business as well, because they're saying it's just, these teams don't generate any income. It's all done by sponsorship. So they've got all these, like one of the teams is sponsored by Alpecin, the caffeine shampoo. Also. And that's the kind of thing, they're sponsored by like supermarkets, or like Sky sponsored a team for years as well. And then the fallout from Sky being in charge of a team is still going on in terms of drug investigations. I was going to say, that does seem like
a bit of a conflict of interest as well. That would be like Channel 4 sponsoring one of the Formula 1 teams. Like, it wouldn't sit right with you. Do you know what I mean? They are the broadcaster.
Well, in the case of Sky, they're not. It's broadcast by a French company. They own it completely and they license it out. And at the moment, it's licensed out to TNT Sports, which was Eurosport.
Oh, that's right. So you said, sorry,
Yeah, but you're perfectly right. Yeah, you would think there is some sort of a conflict of interest there, but obviously not in that case. But yes, there's a few things, and it's very well done in terms of sponsorship because the sponsor's named first and the team named second. So it's not, how you with Formula 1, it's McLaren, and then you can see all the various things. But no, it's usually like Alpecin, whatever the name of the team is, and that kind of thing. So it's very much in terms of the sponsors, and they've got sponsors all over their arms and their back and everything. Anytime they're on screen getting interviewed, they're all liveried up with all this stuff on them as well. So So yes, that was TV. Film. And your recommendation, I watched Clue. It was just about to leave Netflix. So I watched that. It was really good. I'd forgotten how funny it was.
It's brilliant,
especially the last sort of 40 minutes of it, when Tim Curry is basically just running everywhere, explaining everything, it was just really, really good. And the fact that there's multiple endings and all that as well. So I did really enjoy that. Obviously, it's gone now as well, so
I know.
It's the way of it. I watched The Intern, which is Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway. Anne Hathaway is an entrepreneur. She's running this fashion company, and it's been going for a couple of years. It's really successful, and she's getting pressure to bring in sort of proper business people, CEO, in order to help them expand even further. But at the same time, they're doing intern projects, and one of them is to bring in seniors, as in older people, to do interns, to get them back into work and things like that. Robert De Niro is this old guy who used to work making phone books. He was in charge of making phone books, and he gets an intern job, and obviously becomes more and more helpful. And it's actually a really kind of a sweet story and all that, and there's a couple of subplots involving her family and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, perfectly pleasant way to spend a couple hours. I think that was on Prime. I watched it on Prime Video. So yeah, that was all decent and good. Also watched Modi 3 Days in the, I think it's in the Mouth of Madness is the one it's the one I saw as a press preview. It's Modigliari, who's an artist in France at the turn. It's set, I think it's during the First World War. It's 1913, 1914. And he is basically a down at heel artist, and he's trying to sell his stuff, and he's going through all sorts of crisis and things. And at the same time, obviously people are signing up to go to war, and his fellow artists are all struggling as well. It was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. My only thing that I didn't like about it was the French accents.
Oh
and
no!
Speaking English,
no, I hate that. Just speaking accent. Yeah.
Everybody speaks in English in it, which I can understand why they did it, and I can understand sort of Johnny Depp's reasoning behind it, because he's wanting to get to the biggest possible audience. But I think it would have benefited from them speaking in French, and since it was set slap bang in the middle of Paris, so. And let everybody, and even Stephen Graham, who's in it, speaks in this weird sort of French accented English as well. He's Modi's agent, and he's trying to sell his stuff, and that's the main thing about it. He's trying to find a buyer for his stuff so he can actually sort of keep surviving. So, but it was better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be just a bit of a boring disaster. But it didn't turn out that way at all, and it was pretty well directed as well. You can tell that he's got a decent eye for that sort of thing, and if he gets the chance, I think he could produce something like really, really good. But for a sort of early feature, it's not too bad. I thought he's obviously had a lot of help in it, and obviously like backing. There's a lot of backing in there because it looks very nice as well, and it's got pretty good production values. I suppose that we really have to if you're doing a period piece.
On a painter as well, where it's about the visuals,
So it does look good, and obviously the fact that Johnny Depp doesn't appear in it at any point is also a plus point as well, because that kind of takes away from what you would be trying to do here if he suddenly turns up as a buyer to actually get some of the stuff. So
and also it might help it sell, because he still is a bit. In fact, not a bit. He still is obviously under the shadow of everything that unfolded with Amber Heard. And so perhaps that's been a tactical move on his part. A bit like when we joked about Flight Risk, and it was like from the director of Braveheart. So exactly. Maybe with having his name attached to it, but not necessarily in such a prominent way, as in he's in it, maybe he thinks he'll get a bigger audience that way as well. It's a route back for him, and obviously there are people who want to see him succeed, because it's not easy getting funding for a film anyway. So getting funding for a film that's got a controversial name attached to it in some way is even more difficult. People will steer away from that. So I don't think he's as cancelled as some people thought, because when you think back on it, he actually did win his court case against Amber Heard, but nobody came out of that well. That's what you were saying. It's not good at all. Final one from me is a film called Harvest, which again was at the press screening. Well, I've heard a lot of people talking about this.
Yes, it's Caleb Landry Jones is a worker within this small village, which it doesn't tell you when it's set. It doesn't tell you where it's set, although it looks kind of like it's Scottish. There's a few Scottish accents floating about in it as well. And it's harvest time. And within a course of 7 days, the village is basically going to disappear, not in terms of like sort of a Brigadoon kind of thing or a mystical thing. It's more got to do with the guy who's in charge of it doesn't actually own it. It was his wife, so therefore he really doesn't own it, and the actual owner is coming in and they're going to change it to like a massive sort of sheep farm. And it's like how they're coping with this and how everything kind of unfolds over the 7 days. So it is very weird. There's a lot of, there is bits of sort of mysticism in it as well, and sort of these sort of closed community kind of dramas and all that. So you're kind of, but it's not really religious. It's more sort of like pagan sort of stuff rather than that. So it's not this sort of puritanical thing, but it is, and obviously it goes on about sort of class structures and everything and how people do certain things and all that. So again, didn't hold out much hope for it when I started watching it. I thought this is going to be a bit long and burdensome, but it was actually pretty good. No, it was. I actually thought it was pretty good. I get really drawn into the drama. And it's one of these ones that you can tell there is no CG or anything because it looks bleak. And being Scottish, we've seen bleak. So it looks very realistically bleak as well. And there are wee sort of elements to it where there's like a wee bit of violence and stuff like that, but it's more to do with the drama and just kind of rolling along with it and, you know, hating the people that are in charge, you know, the people that are the well-dressed people, all this kind of thing, because you're siding with the villagers and everything. But yes, it's actually fairly decent. I think it's coming on to Mubi. It's in cinemas and then it's going to Mubi in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. So you could give it a wee watch from the comfort of your home and, you know, revel in the fact that you're not living in a hut while you're actually watching it as well. So, yeah. So that's me. That's what I've been doing. So not terribly much, but still sort of keeping my hand in. What about yourself?
So I have been a bit of a Netflix binge, actually. So I watched Under the Shadow, which I'd never seen before. So that's the kind of like supernatural horror set during the Iran-Iraq war. And it's about a family who live in an apartment in Tehran. And the daughter of the family, who's a young girl, she's convinced that it's jinn, like DJINN, that are affecting the flat and not like bombs. So you're kind of wondering, like, there is quite a few parts of the film where you're wondering, like, is this a ghost or is this, you know, is this like just the effects of war? And there's a couple of scenes where my soul exited my body. There was a couple of really good jump scares in there, but it's also just quite an interesting perspective on how obviously like young children perceive war and everything around them. Because it's the dad of the family, he gets like essentially the equivalent of like national service. He gets sent to the front line, so it's just the mum and the daughter, and their relationship isn't really great because she's not particularly maternal, and also they've not really been adhering to the regime. So the mum often forgets to like cover her head. You know, when she goes outside, she has a video player and she watches Jane Fonda workouts, and that's like obviously not allowed because it's Western. And so it's about how she doesn't accept the regime change because she's also lost her place at medical school as a result of it as well. So there's a lot of sort of like unresolved emotions there as well. She doesn't want to be a stay-at-home mum. So it was a really, really good like sort of meditation, I guess, on what it's like to be in a war zone, but also they've added in this sort of supernatural element as well. So it does feel like a sort of good kind of old-fashioned ghost story. So that was really, really good. And I think it was generally only about 90 minutes. It completely flew in. It was so good. I also watched Infinity Pool because that's leaving Netflix at the end of this month. So that is absolutely not the film I thought it was going to be, but it completely blew me away. Like, it is so... Have you seen it?
No, I've not seen it. No.
So it's,
I recognise the name, but I couldn't tell you who was in it.
Alexander Skarsgård and Mia Goth, and it's a kind of body horror thing. So basically, he's a struggling writer, and him and his wife go to this super luxury resort in a made-up island, and they're basically told you can't go outside because, you know, the people are really poor, you would get robbed, it would be really bad for you, you have to stay in the resort. But Mia Goth and her husband, who's a much older man, convince them that they can, we'll just take you to a beach that we know, and like you'll be safe with us. You know, we know we holidayed in this island every year for 9 years, so you'll be really safe. And on their way home, they're all obviously steaming. Alexander Skarsgård's driving, and he runs over somebody and kills him. But they say don't phone the police, because the police here are obviously very brutal. It's a very poor country. They would shoot you. They would take your money. You would never, you would basically never get out of jail. But once he gets taken to, so somebody does phone the police on him, and once he does get taken to prison, you're given an option. So you can either pay a lot of money and they'll clone you, and the family of the deceased get to kill your clone, and they think that obviously justice has been served, or you yourself can die and you don't have to pay anything. So obviously he takes the clone option, and from there it's just wild. Like, it's basically this group of rich people who know that they can get away with whatever the fuck they want to do because they can pay the money, have their clone get killed, and they can run riot on this island doing basically all this, like, drugs, orgies, you know, killing people, beating people up. It is basically a meditation on, like, the ego and how far, like, you're willing to sort of, I don't know, like, not literally, but like metaphorically castrate yourself in order to be accepted in this sort of like high society. It's so good. And I think it's still on Netflix for like 5 more days. So I would urge you to seek it out because it's very, very good. Chris and I were watching it and we were just sitting there like, so many times because it's just, you couldn't believe what was happening and you genuinely weren't sure if you were seeing a double or not. So
yeah, that sounds really good. It's the kind of thing we've seen a few times before where like the super rich in these dramas are looking for the thrill, the next big thrill that only the super rich can actually afford. And that sounds excellent. Yeah, I think I'm going to give that a watch.
It's so worth watching. I feel like it'd be right up your street. The next thing I watched was Happy as Lazaro because I've been wanting to watch this for a long time and it came up on YouTube Movies. It's like £2 or something to rent it. That was a brilliant film. So it starts off and you think it's set in like the 1800s in some rural village in Italy where they're tobacco farmers in debt to the marquise in the area. So they're constantly farming. They have one light bulb because it starts off with, can I get a shot of the light bulb in the room? So they're all living like 15 to a bed. It's so poor. And you actually realise that this village has been cut off by floods and it's actually the 1990s and the Marquise has basically kept them in servitude by not allowing them any access to like television, radio. She's kept them in debt. They don't know what year it is. They don't understand that they've been cut off from the rest of the world. And Lazaro is at the heart of this and he's this genuinely nice young boy, like really hardworking, really kind, and he gets into a bit of an accident and sort of wakes up just I would say about maybe like 15, 20 years later, but everybody else has aged and he hasn't. And it's how he sort of adapts into the family will obviously had to go to the city because the police have got involved and they can't live like this anymore, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But he has to go to the city to find his family and they're still poor because obviously they've got no skills. They've never been to school. Like they're struggling to survive in the city, but he's still this like pure, kind-hearted young boy and he's trying to sort of fit in and be accepted by them. It was so good. Like I feel like there was something of like a religious metaphor running through it in terms of just like his purity and even like the village that they lived in when they were tobacco farmers was in Violata, so pure, basically the translation of that. So it was a gorgeous to look at, like a genuinely well acted film, and yeah, just a really interesting, like a wee kind of bit of magic realism going on in there. As I say, I feel like there was a bit of like religious imagery and stuff like that, but yeah, really, really good story as well. So that was, again, I just rented it on YouTube. It was worth looking. I've been wanting to see it for ages and I couldn't find it, and then I thought, I'll just get it on there and see how it goes. So I watched that. I watched A Woman's Secret on BBC iPlayer. I thought it was going to be like a film noir thing. It was Maureen O'Hara and Gloria Graham, and Gloria Graham's the sort of like protege of Maureen O'Hara. She's a singer. And the film opens with what you think is Maureen O'Hara shooting her, and she confesses to it straight away. But then you get this whole story told in flashback of like their sort of career to date together, and obviously you realise it hasn't been a shooting; it's been like a sort of like an attempted suicide. It wasn't as good as what I hoped. It was that kind of like fast talking, everyone's a dame and everything's swell kind of thing, but it was a wee bit more towards, I suppose you would call like a sort of like melodrama at times. It wasn't really like sort of grounded in the sort of gritty, so it wasn't quite what I was looking for, but it was on iPlayer and a couple of good names in it, so I thought it was, worth watching. And the last film I watched, because I was in a Fincher mood yesterday, was I watched Zodiac. So I have attempted to watch this film twice before, and both times I've fallen asleep, which is no reflection on the film itself. It's just that I've been tired. So last night I sat and watched it. I think I was expecting another Seven, and tonally it's quite different to that. Like there's moments where it's almost like sort of comedy and lighthearted and kind of montagey. But I did thoroughly enjoy it, and it has made me want to obviously fall down a wee Reddit rabbit hole as to who the Zodiac killer really is. But I did enjoy it, and I'm glad that I obviously pursued it and watched it, because it's one of these films I thought I'm never going to be able to watch it because for some reason I keep falling asleep. But it was really good, and good performances in it. as well. Like Jake Gyllenhaal and Robert Downey Jr. and Mark Ruffalo obviously are really, really good in it. And there's a couple of moments that genuinely made my skin crawl as well. And I was just like, oh fuck, get out that house, or you know, don't do this, or you know, don't look at that guy, or whatever. Or like it's very, very active, as you would expect from a Fincher film, because obviously he is a perfectionist and quite meticulous in everything that he does. So that was filmed. I got a short film on BBC iPlayer called Govan Fair Queen, which is written and directed by Paul Black, the comedian, literally only 10 minutes long, and it's about Elaine C. Smith putting her granddaughter up to become the Govan Fair Queen. And she's got like these sort of like local rivalries with like other mums and grannies and stuff like that. One of the moments which did make me absolutely pish myself was there was a girl called, her name was Brooklyn, and her sisters were called like our sisters were called the Bronx and Harlem, obviously because their mom loved New York, and they all had to do a talent. And that wee lassie got on stage in a bowler hat and orange sash and played a big drum. That was her talent for the Govan Fair. And I swear to God, I was pissing myself laughing. It was so, so funny the way they did it. It was really, really good. So that's, I say, just a wee 10-minute short that's on BBC iPlayer. And in terms of TV, the only thing I've watched is Amy Bradley is Missing, which is a 3-part true crime thing on Netflix. So it's about this young woman who was on a family cruise. They were all in the same room and she disappeared from the room. And there's been like what seems to be legitimate sightings of her over the years. Like she's reached out to people for help and they still don't know what's happened to her or where she is or if these sightings are genuine or not. So literally about 25, 30 years later, they do not know what's happened to this girl, if she fell overboard, if she was taken, if she went of her own volition, but she's ended up in a bad way. Like, it was very, very, again, I read it rabbit hole, fell after that because you were just like, well, I'm going to solve this case. Like, it was very, very bizarre, and 3 45-minute episodes, so you just fly through it as well. So that was good. And in terms of books, we were talking about Philip Kerr. Obviously, I've started reading the Simon Scarrow World War II detective novels. So Dead of Night, I read that this week. That was good. And I also read Han Kang's Human Acts, which is set during the 1980 student uprising in South Korea. And that, to be honest with you, devastated me on a level I was not anticipating. It's not a very long book, however, it is completely harrowing, and I felt like I had to take a breather for a couple of days after it because it is grim. So yeah, that's everything from me. So it has actually been quite a wee busy week.
Yeah, some really interesting movies. Yeah, some really good stuff in there. I'm going to give a few of them a watch. I actually have a copy of Zodiac on Blu-ray, and I've never actually watched the film. I've never watched it. It's still sitting.
Oh, have you not?
It's one of these ones I look at and go, that's about 2.5 hours. It is long enough. You know, that's the kind of thing, unfortunately, I look at sometimes. I was well known for not being able to get through Apocalypse Now. I'd watched that maybe 4 or 5 times and always fell asleep within the first 4. I never knew what the second half of the film actually happened, because I used to put it on like at 11 o'clock at night and then fall asleep when I was watching it, you know, because it always seems like a good idea at the time, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what Zodiac was for me. I think I just started it too late, and it's funny because we got to a point last night and I went, oh, this is what I've seen up to. And then anything after that, it was like a brand new film because obviously I hadn't seen it at all. So nice.
Anyway, but yes, it's always nice.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, good stuff.